Recording is done. Well, 1, 2, and 3. Welcome to the Lock and Key Experiment. I'm your co-host Kevin, and your other co-host Trevor is coming online now. So we are going to go ahead and stop sharing, and here we are. Good evening. We are live for episode. I guess this would be episode 3 because we did 1A and 1B, so we had episode 2, so now we're on episode 3. Missed last week, took the week off, had things going on. Had some good games, definitely had some controversy in one of them. We're here to talk about some football. Going to let everybody, our listeners know and our subscribers know that, once football closes down, we'll probably be discussing a lot of other things. The sports news will be on the slow over the next couple of months until opening day, and then you get March Madness starting in March, and we'll obviously have a tournament pick show. Have some other things going on, but as of right now, let's go ahead and get to it. Trevor, do you have anything you want to bring up or discuss in this past weekend's conference championship games that you would like to talk about?
Well, I hate to say it, but there was some shadiness in that Chiefs Cincinnati.
Okay. We know the NFL can be scripted at times.
There was some shadiness, okay? And, I'm not one to go out there and say the NFL is rigged. And every time I sit there and want to say that the NFL is not rigged, they do the polar opposite to show me that the NFL could be rigged,
Very good point.
And it's just, and not to harp on the negatives of that game, okay? But the NFL's got to do something about this officiating, okay? And I'm not talking about the obvious giving Kansas City third down again to get a first down and all that. But, in the Philly game, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The play, the first score, Devontae Smith did not catch that football.
Nope.
Okay.
But I want to intercede. I want to intercede here. I have gotten to the point as a fan of the NFL and as a fan of football in general that I can safely say without a reasonable doubt that I no longer know what it means to be a catch.
Oh, yeah.
Because the NFL has totally taken the ideology of what a catch is and turned it into such a farce. Now, look, that catch, that great grab out of the midair, one arm, comes down, hits the ground. They don't challenge it. They don't call it. They don't overturn it. It's a completed catch. In my opinion, that's how the NFL should be played. If a ref on the field calls it a catch, I am not going to sit here and say that I am against the outright usage of instant replay. But I will say that instant replay has really, really hindered our ability as fans to appreciate the game.
Well,
because now we question everything. This is a time where I would say technology has ruined this part of the game.
Well, it is, and it's also us as people want to have answers and want the correct things to go, okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we go back to that play, okay?
Yep.
Now, I get, unless it's the final 2 minutes, people in New York don't buzz in unless it's a scoring play. Okay?
Exactly.
And so here's the thing, okay, is I fault the NFL for not having something there to be able to review that, okay? Because some plays I say, well, they can review that. No, they can't review that. Well, why do you review this, but you don't review that, and you blow the whistle to review it, okay?
Once
So
again, my point,
I know,
technology
I agree with you,
has
okay? But here's the other thing too, is that Devontae Smith told you he didn't catch the football. Okay. He gets up and he's doing this.
yeah.
This is Philadelphia's code to hurry the fuck up. I didn't catch the ball. Okay. So he gets up immediately. He's doing this.
Yeah.
The Fat Boys come running down the field. Okay. And then like 3 quarters later, the whoever's commentating, he goes, well, you should have a signal for a hurry up. I said, yeah, here's Philadelphia's.
Yeah. And the thing is, this comes into this whole problem of, we've got to get it right. We've got to read it right. If you do that, you start getting off into the woods in this shit, and we start looking at every single play, games will no longer be 3 hours. They will be 5 hours. They will be the other thing I don't like about the replay in general is because if you're a team and you're driving and you're moving the ball and you've got your quarterbacks in rhythm, then all of a sudden you have, well, is it a catch? Isn't it a catch? Next thing you know, 4, 5, 6 minutes go by. Now my quarterback is cold again and out of rhythm. I would love to see Pro Football Focus or Walter Football or some analytics group out there to go and do the research to see how much of an effect a delay of a call takes and what that effect has on either the offense or defensive side of the ball. I would love to see that because I do believe it affects the game.
It does. But here's the problem with this is, okay, we all thought it was great instant replay to where we could see great plays played over and over and over again, okay? But that's not what they use it for. They use it to say, hey, was that a fumble? Did his foot get down? And all this. And I agree with you about taking technology out of it, okay? Because I'm fine. But the problem with that is you take technology out of it. Tom Brady would have won the last 23 Super Bowls if we didn't have technology to keep him and the referees in check. Okay.
So
it's my time to speak now.
Okay.
So here's the thing. Okay. I agree with you on technology, but ultimately the thing is, what have we said about everything? Man is flawed. Okay. Yeah. And the problem with that is that they're not consistent. I don't give 2 shits if it's a catch or if it's not a catch. Okay. What I care about is you don't consistently call the play same way throughout the year for every team. And
correct me if I'm wrong, they are now full-time refs, right?
I think they're going to make them full-time refs next year, okay? So maybe this will get better, but that's the whole thing. It's just like where we work. I might do something one way, you do it a different way, and somebody else does it a different way. There's no consistency in what's pass interference, what's a catch, what's not a catch.
Is his arm coming forward? Is it not coming forward?
See, here's the other thing is what we've talked about. Other things is the people that should be calling the league out about this is the media, okay? But when you got Tony Romo and all these other guys, well, that's the right call and that was the right play. Did you not see that? That play in the other for that other team, that was roughing the passer, okay? Mm-hmm. That was pass interference. Oh, and then the roughing the punter penalty. Okay. Mm-hmm. Look, dude, I watched our punter get destroyed. Okay. No. And it leads to let you think that we call that game. He did not, he got pushed into him. Okay. He got blocked into him.
Yep.
Yes. Okay. Now I can remember back in the day, 15 years ago, you sneezed on the punter, he goes down. It's 15 yards.
15
now you
yards.
pretty much got to crush him, or he can't get the plant foot down. If he can't get the plant foot down, it's a penalty. Okay.
But it's only a 5.
Pushed into him.
Yeah.
Pushed into him, and it really wasn't roughing the punter. It was running into the kicker. Okay. But again,
yeah,
it's a judgment.
Then you have the ref son making money on the game, which look, the NFL is very much a conundrum in the fact that I believe that the NFL wants certain market teams in its big games.
You think?
I don't think that there's things going on behind the scenes that make that happen, but I think that the NFL will do whatever it takes to get the big market teams to be where they are selling tickets and selling subscriptions or whatever the hell it is, percentage of radio, TV, whatever. So I don't know. I hate thinking about that because it's a sport that I love, and I would hate to think that the NFL would be, involved in any type of conspiracy like that. But a couple of months back, or maybe it was a year ago. I don't remember exactly when. But remember not Tony Romo, I'm sorry. Troy Aikman came out about 2 or 3 years ago. I can't remember what it was. And they were having a discussion about the Deflategate. And his argument was Tom Brady absolutely knew those balls were deflated.
Oh, hell yes.
Any quarterback in their right mind. And look what happened to Tony. To Troy the minute he said all that. He was relegated to certain things, and I'm not a huge Aikman fan. I think he's one of the worst collar mans in the business. But he made a point to say what he said, and I really feel like he was ostracized. It's just like with what happened with Tony Romo last year. Everybody loved Tony Romo last year because he was calling the play before the shit even happened. And if you don't think the NFL got in his ear and said, hey, Tony, you can't be doing that shit no more.
They got to hear about something because Tony Romo was not Tony Romo this year.
He was not. He wasn't. He was not
over whoever the flavor of the month quarterback. It's funny that he called every game that Patrick Mahomes was on TV or Burrows or one of the up and coming quarterbacks. He was there all over it. And I'm getting tired of it. So, okay, we get it, Tony. You're a quarterback, all right? But, you know your stuff, but let's get back to this. So
yeah, they took because he was very much, in my opinion, turning into the next John Madden in his ability to call plays, to show what the defenses were doing. He was doing really good at explaining the game at this level, and they kind of just said, you ain't doing that.
They don't want the fans educated.
They don't, because the minute fans get educated, they start asking fucking questions.
And that's why I agree with you on the instant replay thing, but then people are going to record the games, go back and watch it. But you know what the other thing is? You know why the NFL wants it? I had this discussion before.
Oh, yeah.
They want it because what are we talking about? On Monday, we were standing by the water cooler at work bitching about the NFL. Hey, there's no NFL game this week. Guess what? We're going to be talking about the NFL this week. And so that's the thing. So I was watching another video, and I don't know how old this video is or where he said he played it, okay, with Goodell. I think it might have been last year's Super Bowl or some other time. You know what's coming down the pike? What this guy thinks is going to happen? He said, before too long, you're going to get it to where you have one preseason game, okay, maybe two, and you're going to have a 20-game season. And you know what you're going to do? They're going to add 3 more teams to the league, where they're going to get it to, or 4 more. So right now we've got
32.
We got 32. So you've got 14 divisions. They said they're going to add 4 teams, and they're going to change it to 16 divisions, and they're putting a division in Europe.
Well, this was their first year going into Germany. They went into was it Hamburg, or I don't know where they were at. I know they were in Germany.
They went to Germany. The Titans play in Germany next year.
Yeah, so they have a game in Germany. They have a game in London. They have a game in Mexico City.
I think they're putting one in Spain.
They have one in Mexico City, because Mexico City, they've been wanting to get a team in Mexico City. So I'm surprised they wouldn't want one in Canada.
Well, the thing is, I think with Goodell, and somebody asked a question about, games in Europe, and, and he says something about a division and whatever, and it alluded to that they're thinking about creating a division that's going to be in the AFC, okay? The European division will be in the AFC, okay? And they will have their own division there where there's 4 teams in Europe, and teams will fly out there to play in Europe.
Well, because the flight ain't what it used to be. I mean, now you can get those, not the Concorde anymore, but you can get a flight to Europe in under 6-7 hours. So I mean,
it's still kind of.
I mean, what's the big difference? I mean, there are teams that travel from the East Coast to the West Coast. I mean, that's 4 or 5 hours. I mean, in my opinion, it's and these are paid athletes, man.
I know, but the thing is, when we sit there and talk about this, okay, you and I have both been on transcontinental flights, okay? Yeah. And now I get it, we weren't high-paid professional athletes, okay?
But we were high-paid professional soldiers.
We weren't the doughboys we are now, Yeah. We were lean, mean, okay? Yeah. But here's the thing, okay? Week 1 through week 20, not a big deal. It's not. Okay.
Nope.
Say one of those European teams makes it to the AFC Championship game, or makes it to the playoffs. Okay. Say they play on Sunday, they win. Well, now you got to go. Your playoff games in Europe. Now you got to fly to Kansas City play, or vice versa. They play in Kansas City. Now they got to fly to Europe to play. Okay. And jet lag. I know, like you said. Jet lag for us now on the flights that we are bad. Jet lag for them on those flights, it ain't bad. But still, you're looking at.
But you give them 2 or 3 days. You give them 2 or 3 days to get through the jet lag. They're fine.
Again, I'm not arguing, because you know me. I ain't arguing shit for no damn professional athlete. Okay, you get paid $40 million to play a sport. You know what? Buckle up. Okay.
Now, I think it's interesting that we're talking about. I'm just arguing
for the fact that people will sit there and use that as an argument, going back and forth, back into all this.
Yeah, I think it's been the NFL wants to own the calendar year. That's what they want.
Yep.
So adding extra conferences, adding 3 more weeks to the season or 2 more weeks to the season, that wouldn't surprise me one bit.
Because you know what that does, then.
Huh?
You know what that does, then, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, now they own
Super Bowl in March.
Well, you could put it right at the end of February, and then you own February, all of February. You own March, basically. You own a little bit of March because you have the start of the league year. You have free agency. Then you get to the draft. Then you have training camp. Then you have preseason. Then you have the regular season. I'm all for it. I think it's great. I think it's a great idea. I hope that it happens.
I don't think they make it go longer. I think they started earlier.
They could own August. But the thing is I think
I'm gonna tell you now, they do that. College football expands to 12 games. Hey, I'd like to see that pissing contest, because I'm gonna tell you right now, college football in the neck of the woods you and I live in, NFL ain't got a chance in hell.
No, I would
up
say
north and out west, yes.
I would say you're probably right, but I will tell you that college football goes to a 12-game playoff. They're going to own the NFL at the first month of January. They'll own them, because those games, those 6 playoff games, they're going to be massive. The
Well,
first
they won't
year.
be in January. They'll be in December. You know how the last conference championship game is usually the
But
first.
see, I didn't think they could do that because of finals week. I think they have to deal with these guys being scholastic.
When is March Madness played?
Not in the middle of finals week.
I think
Midterms. There's midterms, but they play. Most of those schools are in the middle of spring break during March Madness.
And you know what? If they give a shit about those students, okay,
yeah,
we wouldn't be talking about this shit right now. But they don't.
All right, so let's
those students don't give a shit about being students.
All right, so we've discussed it. I think next week that we'll do our Super Bowl picks, and David, our special guest celebrity, David Hobson will be here to go over some prop bets and go over some odds and stuff for us. So we've discussed it. We've told people where we plan on going with this. Speaking of college football, we are in the dead season of college football. So I mean, we're moving on through basketball now. I know.
Worst time of the year.
Huh?
Worst time of the year.
Well, you're a lot more into the college football world than I am, although I am still connected to the college world.
Well, see, that's funny because that's how you and we mesh. See, I grew up with no college, no pro team within, the closest pro team is that team that we won't mention.
I'm going to throw a shot out here, wherever my camera is. There it is. I don't know if you can see it. No, you can't really see it. My Burbaholics glass. This is Obtainium 140 proof.
Good thing you ain't working tomorrow.
Oh man, don't I love Thursdays? It's my day.
But no, speaking of college football, did you hear what happened? ESPN lost one of their top-notch commentators.
Who'd they lose?
Todd Blackledge.
Oh, speaking of Todd Blackledge,
going to NBC to call Big Ten games, and you know what? Now I don't have to listen to him anymore.
Want to put out our prayers and condolences to the family of the Packard family. Mr. Packard, Billy Packard died. What was it, last week or?
Yeah.
Was it the end of last week? Or was it this
26th? Yeah.
It was the 26th. Billy Packard died. I know he was not an SEC fan. He was not a fan of the SEC, but the voice.
Jim Nantz make the Final Four special, man.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So he will be sorely missed, and because he's gone, I'm gonna go ahead and put a glass up and cheers to Billy Packard. You will be missed, sir.
Now, I just hope they don't put Dick Vitale up there with Jim Nantz.
I don't know. Jim Nantz goes with a lot of different people. I love Jim Nantz.
But Dick Vitale gets a little overexcited and get hyper and all that. And I know there's a point in time and for all that, but sometimes
we just got informed
we got our 10-minute cut. 10-minute.
We got our 10-minute countdown. So we got about 10 minutes left, so we can continue talking about this. I like Dick Vitale. So here's the question.
I do too.
Best. Here you go. Here's the question. Poll question to our listeners, to our watchers. You can put it down in your chat box or text box, whatever the hell it's called. After our podcast, you can put it in there. But best duo ever, not just for a sport, right? For a sport, best duo for a sport that you can think
of. Game?
Yeah. Call a game. To call a game. I know everybody's going to chime in and say John Madden and Pat Summerall.
Not even close.
I think they're okay.
It's not even that sport.
Who are you going with?
Dude, our generation is the last generation that grew up watching and playing baseball. You know,
Okay.
we didn't play football. When I was a kid, we played football, but we played football in the fall. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But you
Okay.
know, and baseball was all the
Okay.
times because you can take 5 kids and go play baseball. You can't
Yep.
take 5 kids and go play football. And plus,
No.
when I grew up in Oklahoma, there was a baseball field on every corner. Okay.
Yep. Okay. So who you
to
got?
me, it was the Saturday afternoon games. You got to go with Vince Scully and Joe Garagiola.
Okay, Joe Garzazola and Vince Scully. I great pairing. Can't hurt them. I can't say for a fact that this is a duo. I'm not 100% sure because I don't think I've ever seen the two together at the same time. I could be wrong, but there's 2 pairs I'd like to bring up. The first one, me being local Washington, D.C. affiliate guy, in my opinion, growing up on the radio, the best broadcast duo, Frank Herzog and Sonny Jurgensen. That's just my local guys. But I digress. Outside of my local guys, we'll go with Jim Nantz, Bob Costas. Now, I remember. Now, I know you remember. Now, I was way, way young. Now, you were a couple of years older than me, so you might remember more. But it was, correct me if I'm wrong, it was Howard Cosell. And who was the other guy that did Monday Night Football? Was Monday Night Football with Howard Cosell and what was the guy's name?
Frank Gifford.
Frank Gifford. Now, my dad, if he was alive, bless his heart, that's who he'd say greatest duo in sports history were them two.
Well, I was going to go with that. I was going to go with first of all, any sport Howard Cosell is calling.
Howard Cosell. Okay.
I'm in.
You
know what? He could call, ice melting off an icicle off your eve of your house. And you know what? I'm in.
Howard Cosell.
I'm watching. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you got Howard Cosell, Frank Gifford, and Don Meredith. They were the first. Well,
yeah.
Keith Jackson was on there the first year. Then they got those guys, and I can remember, like you said, as a kid, it was Frank Gifford and it was Howard Cosell for a long time. And Don Meredith was on there. That murderer out in Brentwood, California, was on there for a little bit.
OJ was on there.
And then some others. Now, the thing with me is because I got to go back to my roots of college football, okay? Is to me, anybody that called a football game with Keith Jackson. I can't tell you off the top of my head who Keith Jackson was with, okay? But
didn't Billy Packard and Keith Jackson? Didn't Billy Packard and Keith Jackson work together a little?
I don't know if Keith Jackson did basketball that much, okay? But I know Keith Jackson called games with a lot of people. I know back in the 80s, I know towards the end of his career, it was Keith Jackson and Bob Greasy.
Yeah, good combo.
So I know Keith Jackson was pretty much just with anybody.
And now Harry Carey with
oh man, I'm kicking myself. Why did I say Harry Carey and Steve Stone, man. Hey, especially Harry Carey after the 7th inning. That was good TV right there, man.
That's about as good as it gets. And just to throw another group out there, just as a famous pair is Bob Uecker and the guy from Major League, probably the two best collar men for the Cleveland Indians that they probably ever had, even though it was fiction, nonfiction.
Right. He does radio for the Brewers.
Oh, he always has. He finally
made it to the Hall of Fame a few years back.
Finally made it to the Hall of Fame. Not the gas station across the street, but he finally made it into the Hall of Fame. But anywho, so we're talking about sports announcers. We'll keep talking. Harry Carey, probably the most easiest identify. Him and Howard Cosell are probably the most two easy identifying voices in sports history. I don't know. Marv Albert
is up there too.
Well, Marv Albert for basketball was big. I mean, Marv Albert, even before the transsexual thing or whatever the hell it was huge. He still does games. Still does games.
Yeah.
So
that and that's the thing that with the announcers, and like you said, and the reason I went with Vin and Joe, because to me, I think they were the last two guys to do it on TV.
Yeah.
And guess what they talked about? They talked about the damn game that they were calling. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what drives. I remember listening to Joe Garagiola probably about 20 years ago on the radio here, and he was called in. They were talking to him. He's a host on the local radio station, and he was going off about announcers now. He says, I can't watch baseball or football or any sport anymore. Because they go out there and here's the game. Oh, yeah, and they're talking about this player that happened over here, or they're talking about this fan, and by the way, there's strike two and all that. And he said, they're on TV. They don't have to call the game. Why? Because you're watching it, okay? Yeah. So they don't call it. He said, now on the radio, that might be a little bit different. But you know what? I get it. I can see the game. I don't need you to call every ball and strike. But I don't need you to be telling me about the Water Boys' girlfriend's brother or whoever else, whatever. And I don't give it.
I remember my dad
I would watch and listen to the game. Talk about the game.
My dad would specifically, when I was growing up, he would turn the TV all on mute, and he would turn Frank Herzog on and Sonny Jurgensen. Because we would rather listen to them call the game and describe the game than sit there and talk about who's who, who's whatever, what's going on that week.
You can't do that now because time delay.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't do it.
You listen to it on the radio, okay?
Yep.
And you hear them call the play, and
it's a minute and a half behind.
There might be two plays behind you on TV, you know?
Exactly. I remember Frank Herzog, one of my favorite sayings of all time was the Washington Redskins are moving left to right on your radio dial. Greatest statement ever, I mean, so I don't know. I do get, what do you call it? Nostalgia for the old days, the old days when you had good, solid pairing of announcers that called a good, solid game. Because nowadays you don't have it. The Monday Night Football crew is a joke with Troy Aikman and Joe Buck. They talk more about the social agendas of players today than they do what's actually fucking going on the field. I don't have a problem. You want somebody's cleats for my cause or whatever. I don't give a shit. I'm not here to watch about what your cause is for. I'm here to watch you play a game. But once again, everybody's got to have a voice. Everybody's got to be heard. Everybody's got to have something. Man, I don't give a shit. I really don't. Just call a good game. Make it interesting. Describe what's going on. Give me situational awareness on the field. Tony Romo, like we said, last season did that outstandingly. This year, he's totally changed. It's probably because the NFL said, Tony, you got to stop that shit. We want you to be more whatever.
Control the narrative.
Imagine what Tom Brady's going to be like on free